Cowboys already making moves to make sure they're in position to do some big spending. They got under the $301.2 million salary cap today by restructuring the contracts of Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb and Tyler Smith, the left guard. Prescott's base salary goes from $40 million to $1.8. Lamb's and Smith's drops to $1.7 in that range. The differences were turned into signing bonuses for cap purposes to free up space. And here's Jerry on the Cowboys' plans for free agency.
The only way to push more is for me to go borrow some of my future. Okay? Expect me to go borrow some of my future. I really can't accept just the thought of winning one Super Bowl and then what. I see a chance to put a team together and basically be knocking at the edge and get another one or get a chance at another one. I would bet that we will spend more money in free agency than we have.
Okay, over the last 5 seasons in the offseason, the Cowboys have spent $284 million in the free agency window, which is 2 days before the official start of free agency and extending 6 weeks. That is last in the NFL in that span. However, Dallas has spent the 6th most money in the league over the last 5 seasons. They just don't often do it during free agency. Okay, he says it, he talks it. It's not like he's saying I'm all in like we've heard in the past. But, Lewis, I'm giving you the opportunity to spend some money.
Yeah.
How should the Cowboys spend their money this offseason?
Yeah, the money's going to be spent on defense. And look, I think it has to be spent front to back, right? So you're going to start up front. I think you're good on the interior with your defensive tackles. You already made enough moves at the defensive tackle spot that you figure that the interior pass rush is good to go. It's who can you get to come off of the edge? Who is the big game? Who can you go big game hunting for right now? I think obviously that has to start with Trey Hendrickson. I think you have to make a run at a guy like Trey because that would make your defensive front pretty formidable. Think about Quinnen Williams, Trey Hendrickson, Osa Odigizua. I mean, that's a pretty good group. Kenny Clark, that's a pretty good group. Donovan Ezra, who they drafted last year out of Boston College. Now you're cooking. Then in the draft, like obviously this isn't free agency spending, but who knows how much it'll cost to get Trey to come there because I think Indianapolis will be players because his old coach is there, right? Lou Anarumo's the defensive coordinator there who he had so much success with in Cincy. In the draft, that's when you go heavy on the secondary. That's where you go heavy at corner. You go heavy at safety. That's when you start thinking about Mansour Delane. You start thinking about guys like Dylan Thieneman from Oregon, a safety, a corner, guys who are hybrid dudes who are young, fast, big hitters, turn the football over. Now I think then you're talking about maybe getting that one Super Bowl that he's talking about that he says he wouldn't be satisfied with. He needs 2 or 3. Just get one. Just get to the playoffs and then win a game. Let's just start there.
You know, we're always trying to spend the Cowboys' money. I'm going to help Jerry out. Right now, his defensive tackle room is the most expensive defensive tackle room in football. So I think we need to trade one of those guys. Whichever one, you just traded for Quinnen Williams, so it's not going to be him. So either Kenny Clark or Odigizua, one of those guys to me has to go. And in turn, now what you said, Lewis, let's start enacting on that plan. Let's add some guys to come off the edge because you got to get pass rush. It doesn't matter who's calling the defense. If you don't have guys that can make the ball come out, it does not matter. And then once we address the front, let's then get to the back end. But there's no doubt, defensively is where they need to go. But before they start spending some money, I don't think you can have as much money as they have tied up at the defensive tackle position. You can only play 2 unless you're going to play a bear front, which is center and both guards are covered. I don't know many teams are playing that as their base. So you can only play 2 defensive tackles. They have a lot of money tied up in those 3 guys.
All right, let's spend Jerry's money since we're all doing it here. Offensively, they're good. I think offensively, Dak Prescott playing like a top 2 or 3 quarterback last year. I think that's a top 5 offense. Go to defense. What both you guys said, it starts with the defensive line, then the linebackers, then the secondary. They need the most help there. You cannot leave free agency without either landing Trey Hendrickson or Max Crosby. One of those 2 guys to make a splash, finally come through on your promise, Jerry, of giving the Dallas Cowboys something they need. And I love the fact that you're going to do it building from the front to the back. because if you get to the quarterback faster, that makes your job easier in the secondary. If you can have up double teams, like you guys know, linebackers can roam free. I think without a doubt, Max Crosby, Trey Hendrickson would shore up that defensive line. And I love Lewis's idea of going in the draft and spending for corner and safety, but you have to land either Trey Hendrickson or Max Crosby.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And the Trey's going to be a good one. That's going to be a good one to go get. There's going to be a lot of teams who are going to look at someone like Trey Hendrickson and go, yeah, he could help put us over the top. New England's going to look at him. Chicago's going to look at him. So look, there's going to be a bidding war, and Jerry is going to have to spend some of that future money, no question. I'd love to see Max Crosby there too. I just don't know if John Spytek is going to be willing to go ahead and come off of a guy who is ultimately one of the great Raiders of all time. He really embodies everything that is a Raider. So Jerry, I know he may be willing to spend money. I just don't know if he wants to give up compensation in terms of draft picks, and that's what it's going to cost. Maybe 2 1s, at least a 1 and a 2, maybe a future 1, in
the trade. All-pro cornerback Trent McDuffie to L.A. for a package of draft picks that includes this year's first-round pick, 29th overall, 5th and 6th-round picks, and a 2027 third-round pick. Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes got to the point among Kansas City players to react on social media after the news of the trade, just writing, damn, in a post on X this afternoon. I'm back here with Bull, Lewis, and Chase. I talked about this earlier. McDuffie's only 25 years old. Now he leaves one Super Bowl contender to another Super Bowl contender. Boog, your thoughts on the Chiefs deciding to move him?
Well, I think when you look at the top of the cornerback market, you got, Derek Stingley Jr., Sauce Gardner. Those guys are making $30 million a year. And it's clear that the Chiefs weren't going to invest $30 million a year into Trent McDuffie. Just look at their history. When you go back to Marcus Peters, L'Jarius Sneed, now Trent McDuffie, they're not going to pay their best corner or even a corner that deserves top of the market money. They're just not going to do it. And so now this solves that problem because now you get a first-round pick back. You get several picks back, actually, and it allows you to use those picks to either go on offense or help the pass rush up front. And if you're the Rams on the other side, I think from a Rams standpoint, this turns one of the weakest parts of your team into a strong suit because you have arguably a top 3 corner in football. So oftentimes, Cavs, when worlds collide and you get a win-win situation, those are the types of trades that I love to see, Chase. And this trade here is a win-win for both teams based on where they are and the Chiefs' philosophy of not paying cornerbacks and the Rams needing a corner as they are in win-now mode.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I do think it's a win-win for both teams. The Rams get their star all-pro corner, but I really like this from the Chiefs. And it's hard to say that when you lose a 25-year-old all-pro player. But when you look at it, they are following the exact same path they did with Tyreek Hill and other corners that you mentioned. They trade them away, they get 4 picks, and they build through the draft. There's not many other GMs in the league that I trust more than Brett Veach. The success is there, everything about it. They draft and develop specifically on the defensive side of the football, these corners. When I played there and I played against Steve Spagnuolo, defensive coordinator, I'm not saying that they're throwaway guys at corner, but these guys are called faceless opponents, which means it doesn't really matter who plays the corner position in Steve Spagnuolo's too high zone. You're sort of reading, is it Porters? Is it Cloud? Whatever it is. Look, they're going to lose a legit tackler and a really good man-to-man. But I feel really good about them having the opportunity to develop these guys and to plug and play these guys when needed.
All right, Lewis, let's talk a little bit about the draft. You guys talked about Veach a couple of times and how good he is at this. And that is why this team is relevant, and they can spend all the money that they spend with Mahomes and all these other guys, but still come back year after year because they nail at least day 1 and day 2. They are armed with the 29th pick, now the 9th pick, and right now the mocks have them going with Jeremiah Love. Does this change now with this trade, their approach at 9?
No, I don't think it does. As long as Jeremiah Love is still within their wheelhouse, I think they have to take him. Look, you just do. Eric Bieniemy back in the fold as the offensive coordinator, a former running back. You got running back coaches coming up to me and saying, you know who Jeremiah Love reminds me of in terms of the fluidity with which he runs? He reminds me of the great Eric Dickerson. Not quite as tall, doesn't have that same upright style, but they just say the grace with which he moves is just is just too hard to ignore. And Brett Beach isn't going to ignore that either. Now, they have 2 1s, a 2, a 3, and a 4, and 3 5s this year. If Jeremiah Love isn't there, I think that's where it gets interesting. Because they do have a bunch of needs now, okay? They need a franchise running back. They need another wideout. They need another pass rusher, whether that be inside or outside, to help out Chris Jones. And then they need to stockpile again at corner. So they really need 4 premium guys. Right now, they have the ammo to get at least 3 of them. Maybe if Jeremiah Love isn't there, could Brett say, hey, look, does somebody want to come up to 9? Can I move down? Can I pick up an extra 2 or a 3 somewhere along the line where I have 2 1s and 2 2s this year, along with 3 5s and the rest of my picks? You absolutely could. Because then what you're doing is you're infusing a lot of youth into your team, a lot of high picks into your team, and you're bringing those cap numbers down, and you're getting a little bit more, let's just say, fluid and able to move around within the salary cap instead of always having to go to Patrick and say, hey, look, we got to renegotiate that contract again. We got to give you more money up front and spread this money out, which I'm sure Patrick will say, hey, that's cool. I got you. But you know what? That's not the way they want to manage the cap.